Welcome to mmlearn.org, a program of Morningside Ministries. We're so glad you could join us today for our topic, Living Independently, a Healthy Choice. Usually when we talk about living arrangements and aging, people ask me to speak about assisted living or how to choose an assisted living facility, how to choose a long-term care or a skilled nursing site. Today I want to talk about how you can live alone or with someone else at home and stay independent and healthy for as long as you possibly can. So we're going to take a few minutes. One thing I don't like to do is go over things that we already should know. So I'm not going to beat this up, but I've got to review it with you. And that is, yes, in order to live independently, you've got to continue to exercise. You have to eat healthy. You've got to get enough sleep. And you need to watch your weight. And those are things that there are many programs on, many places you can find that on the internet to learn more about. So I don't want to focus a lot on that today. I want to look at some other things with you. To begin with, I want to explain that the number one reason that we see people who give up living independently and move into assisted living is because of the use of medications or inability to take their pills on time, individuals who can't self-administer their medications any longer. I want to tell you, when you think about how many pills are ordered for people, and they call any number more than 9 polypharmacy, we have a chance for interaction of drugs. So every time you go to the doctor and somebody gives you a new medication, you're adding your chances of having problems with medication because they're going to interact with each other, meaning they can create falls, they can create all sorts of problems for you. So you want to get your doctor to kind of reduce the number of medicines you're on, not just keep adding them. It is imperative that your doctors, and you always have more than one because of the specialists that you see, know all the meds you're on. You can't go in and try to remember. I suggest to people that you take all the meds you're on, put them in a paper bag, and take them with you. But if nothing else, please keep a chart of when you start on a drug, what drug you're on, and they need to know what are the milligrams or what is the dosage of the medication that you're taking. If you're computer savvy or you're working with a physician group that puts things on the computer, you can actually take one of these little USB sticks and put that right into a computer and take it to your doctor, and they can look at that as well. But simply enough, all you need is a piece of paper. You can download those, or you can write us at info@mmlearn.org, and we'll be happy to provide you with a sheet and send you something that you can use. But remember, it is imperative that you write down every drug. In addition to the drugs that physicians prescribe, you need to also let the doctor know what are those herbal medications you're taking, what are you buying off of the TV at 2 in the morning and having them send to you, what over-the-counter medications, what cough syrup, are you taking Advil PM, are you taking Advil, Tylenol, aspirin. Any over-the-counter medication is a medication, so is every herbal. We have a lot of videos that are available to you on mmlearn.org. And these videos cover over-the-counter medication. There's an especially wonderful program called Bad Drugs that's given by Dr. Raji. I encourage you to go online and look for those, or again, if you can't find them, you can call us or email us at info@mmlearn, and we'll send you a link to see those programs. But it's imperative that you go to your pharmacist and let the same pharmacist help you look at those drugs as well as your physicians. Great way to catch mistakes or drugs that are going to interact with each other. There's something called the Beers List, and we have this on a number of programs too, but just briefly, let me tell you that the Beers List is a list of drugs that doesn't mean that they're contraindicated because you're older or that you shouldn't absolutely take, but we do know that there are more complications with these drugs in older adults. So what's our topic about today? Our topic is about you staying home and staying independent as long as possible. If there's a drug that we know tends to cause falls, tends to cause dizziness in elders that maybe you could take when you were 40. I'm 61 now, and I can tell you I can barely take a Benadryl. It makes me woozy, and it sets me up for falls. So I just want you to be aware that this Beers List goes over, and it has many drugs on it, but it identifies those things we want to be more careful with if you're aging up. Our bodies change, our metabolism change, and this list is very accurate and it's changed frequently. And we're going to have this available for you to download. So at the top of your screen, you'll see a little paper clip. If you click on that, you'll be able to download a current copy of the Beers list. And if nothing else, take it to your own physician, because even some physicians forget to refer to the Beers list. So we talked about, well, what is the number one reason why people have to leave their home? Well, the number one reason that we tend to see is medications. When we talk about meds, it's not the only reason people fall, but medications are some of the cause for falls. Falls are the number two reason that we see people come to assisted living or even skilled nursing facilities for rehabilitation, or because it has been so severe they may not be able to live independently on their own. So what we want to do is everything and anything that we can do to prevent falls in your home. So how can we best do that? We talked about the meds. Now I want to talk about if you did fall and you can't get up, and I know we've all seen the commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, the problem is here is that people that stay in their home after a fall that don't get immediate attention can become very dehydrated, can have all sorts of bleeding, all sorts of secondary problems if they don't get immediate attention. I'm not saying that if you have a fall you're going to have to go to an assisted living, but what I can say is that if you fall and you don't get immediate attention, you may not be able to get home as quickly, or you may not be able to go back at all. So what can we do? Well, one of the things is to have one of the alert systems on that you can press, and that is something that you can wear in the shower and something that will follow you all over your home, because to be in your home for 24 hours before someone finds you is going to put you at a great disservice to yourself, tremendous pain, and the likelihood that maybe you won't be able to go back home. So I am a great proponent of utilizing these emergency alert systems, especially if you do live alone or there's no one else there to help you or doesn't check in on you frequently. An area that we see a tremendous amount of problems, and even in facilities where we have folks that we take care of in assisted living and skilled nursing, the predominant number of falls happen in bedrooms and bathrooms. The reason for the falls in the bathrooms are because of slippery floors. I want to talk to you about not putting in handrails in the shower and by the toilet after you have a fall. This is the time, if you're even watching this program or watching this program for a parent or a loved one, to think about having these apparatuses installed now. Because we want to prevent it, we don't want to install it after it's happened to help someone with their mobility. So there are many companies that do this for you. Lots of folks will tell you you can do this on your own. I can tell you I wouldn't want to do it on my own or have my husband install this, because I don't think either one of us would safely be able to do this. But we want to make sure that these are very secure and that they're going to handle the weight. And I would just encourage you, there are so many organizations that you can refer to. And if you have questions about this, again, contact us at info@mmlearn.org, and we'll share what we know and who you can go to get assistance to do this. Might cost a little bit of money, but not very much, to be honest with you. Nothing like what it will cost you if you haven't installed them. Another reason for falls is lighting. I want you to look at this lighting for pathways going up to a home, solar-powered lighting if you're coming in the evening or you're going out early in the morning to get your newspaper. These are all areas that you need to think about having really good, solid lighting. But I also want to talk about internal lighting in a home is extremely important. As we age up, our vision changes, and we need more light, not less, but more. We turn off lights at night because we think that we want to set the evening standard. If we're going to go to bed, we want to lower the lights, turn off the TV. The truth is that sometimes you need more light, because if you're someone who gets up during the night to go to the bathroom, your likelihood of falling at that time is greater. So there are lights that can go on when you stand up that can be installed in a home. Those are not as inexpensive as just putting in good lighting and leaving a light on if you have to go to the bathroom. Little night lights that are plugged in are usually not adequate to find your pathway, and especially if you're taking medicine at night for any reason, again, the need for lighting. Actually, natural lighting in a home is the finest thing you can do. So if you have curtains and things up that preclude lighting from coming in, natural light is so important for us. I really encourage people to get better lighting, better blinds, and do it now while you're well and you're thinking about how to stay independent. Really bring in lighting experts to work with you, or at least put in greater wattage bulbs, and be very, very careful that you have adequate lighting. This one is not simple. When we think about our eyesight changing and our hearing changing, I know that this can be very expensive. Going to an ophthalmologist today and getting new glasses, hearing aids are incredibly expensive. The problem is we start too late getting them, and there are entire programs on hearing. As a matter of fact, at mmlearn we have one that's going to be coming available very soon. Not being able to hear and not being able to see are other reasons for falls, disorientation, and I like to use the example of my own glasses. If I look through those glasses right now, I can barely see through them, and not because they're not the right prescription. It's because they're so dirty that I could fall just by the virtue of me not keeping clean glasses. So some very simple things are making sure that your glasses are clean. Another thing with glasses is that you want to prevent falls and disorientation by keeping up with your prescription. None of us want to talk about having dementia or cognition problems. But I'm going to tell you that as we age up, our memory isn't the same. Our ability to comply with testing can change. Make sure right now, while you're well, thinking of staying independent, get those eyeglasses changed. One of the other things with hearing aids and hearing is people begin to isolate when they can't hear. They go into restaurants and they say, I can't stand the distracting noises. I don't want to go to movie theaters because I can only hear the guy behind me eating popcorn. I can't hear what's coming off of the screen. Anybody who lives with somebody who has a hearing problem knows that they tell you they don't have a hearing problem, you mumble. No, you have a hearing problem. Hearing can make people very isolated because you want to quit going to restaurants. You want to quit going to areas where there's so much noise that you feel distracted, disoriented. You can't carry on a conversation with people. Socialization is one of the things that keeps us independent. So our whole topic is, how do I stay healthy? How do I keep out on my own? How can I continue to live either by myself or with my spouse without having to enter a facility? So one of the things I'm going to tell you is watch our upcoming program on hearing, change the batteries on your hearing aid, keep them clean, and go back to your audiologist and your ophthalmologist for routine checkups. Really interesting. Today, we're all looking at ways to save energy, to be more efficient, and I agree we should do this. I'm 61. I don't consider myself at all technological. I have one, as you can see on your bottom right on your screen, of one of these new thermostats that you can preset, and it'll change the temperatures throughout the day. It'll cool the house before I get home, but it'll warm it up during the day. Half the time I can't figure out this thermostat. I want to explain to you, now is the time to put in thermostats and go back to the older age of when you can easily see the dial and you can manipulate it. Because unless you are computer proficient or you're technologically sound, you're going to have trouble. This is something we've learned from our facilities, and if your home overheats, you begin to become dehydrated, you can't handle adjusting the cold and heat of your own home, you're going to have problems staying independent. Your kids are going to come in and say, Mom, the house is too hot. Dad, you're not taking care of yourself. They don't know how to handle things anymore. Actually, it comes down to we've gotten involved in technology that we're not comfortable with, and I'll show you some other things, but I say keep it simple. Make your life simple so you can handle it. Those dials and numbers can be bought that they're large so you can continue to see them for a long time. Telephones are another issue. I talk a lot about cell phones, and this is the time to have a cell phone. We know that it's important to have with you in the event you get lost. There's an emergency to reach your family. But on the other hand, we need larger phone numbers to be able to see. We need simpler cell phones to use if you're having any difficulty with that. It isn't going to get easier. It's going to get harder. I tell people, buy the phone now that you're going to need as you age up to keep you independent. I will tell you a wonderful phone for my mother was to remember numbers. It's hard to go find the number when you need it in a hurry. They have phones that are made that have pictures on the phone. They can be pictures of your children. They can be pictures of a fire, a picture of a policeman, so that you don't have to look up a number or remember 911, because in a state of confusion, all you have to do is push the picture. That's one idea. The other thing is that phones are made now with different volumes of ring so that you can hear the phone anywhere in the house. There might be somebody trying to call you, a neighbor that's saying they're seeing something wrong with your home or a storm is coming. All things to keep you independent. So make sure that you have the right phone system that rings loud enough and one that you can see the dial and even see the dial at night if you need it. Doorbells are just as simple. I'm not into real confangled things that have lots of tones and things that are going off. A simple doorbell, but make sure again that you can hear that doorbell so you will know someone is there. Especially you don't want to know about miss a doorbell if there's an intruder who doesn't know that you're at home and is going to come in. You want to be able to know when that doorbell is ringing. Just like we talked about the technology for the thermostat, I want to encourage people right now, if you're replacing appliances and getting yourself set up, whenever you go to these department stores, they want to sell you the newest and the best thing. That flat top that looks so beautiful and clean and sleek that doesn't have the coils on it. I have one of those. I can't tell you how many times I've burned my hand on that. We need to be very, very careful of what we're purchasing in appliances. So if you're going to stay home, be independent, make sure that you can read the dials on the stove. If it's a computer generated and you're not computer proficient, go back to the stoves while you can still buy them that have the dials that you can read, and make sure they're big enough. There's all sorts of apparatuses that can be adapted for this, but they're not adaptable when they're computer driven. And those computer boards can get very expensive as well to replace. Sometimes those older ones are easier to deal with. Probably you all know that better than I do. This is definitely something we don't think about. I remember when I got married, the one thing that everybody wanted to tell me to buy was La Crusette. And I'm not putting down that, I still love it. But it has gotten so heavy for me. The other thing are handles that heat up. And if you're taking something off the stove and you forget to get a mitt, you're going to burn your hand. The biggest problem with burns comes from the weight of the actual cookware that you're using. So I want to encourage you, there's some phenomenal good cookware that's very, very light, that has handles that don't heat up when you cook on top of the stove. And just recognize your strength isn't probably going to increase. If anything, it's going to decrease. So taking something from the stove over to the sink to drain it, that type of thing. Look for safety measures in regards to this. Wonderful, lightweight cookware can be found in many department stores. And just think about that the next time you buy it, or go ahead and buy it now before you get a burn. Housekeeping is a major issue, and we all know this all the time, whether you're young moving into your new home or you're at our age that we're thinking about staying independent. Yes, gutters need to be cleaned, plumbing needs to be taken care of, good care of the yard and the roof all has to be done. Why am I going to talk about this today for staying independent? When we wait until we have a problem and we're in a hurry to get things fixed is the biggest chance you're going to have of being taken for elder fraud. People who are going to come and take advantage of you financially because you don't have the time to do good comparative shopping. I encourage anybody who's watching this today, for their parent or for themselves or a friend, to know the time to take care of home maintenance is before you need it. Get those things done that can be done while you have the time and the inclination to learn who is a sound person to come and do this, that comes from references, that is well validated by the Better Business Bureau or especially other neighbors, and to know that you're getting a fair price. I can't tell you the number of people that are taken advantage of. I recently heard of an older woman, and I actually happen to know this person, who needed the front doors redone, just repainted and refinished, charged $7,000. The gentleman that did my front doors did it for $700. That is elder fraud. and elder abuse, to be honest with you. So take care of yourself because you want to protect your assets as well. Plumbing, those kind of things, all can be looked at ahead. Well, this is often difficult because we do programs on hoarding, and I'm not going to call any of you that are watching this hoarders, but I want you to know that as we age up, we tend to find that we've accumulated a lot of items and things that we don't want to get rid of. They're very meaningful to us, things we want to share with our family, with our children, that we want to will to somebody. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your personal items, but I am going to say that if you have something you love and you're going to give it to your children and you're thinking of simplifying your life and you want to stay independent, give it to them now and let them enjoy it. Go visit them and see it and know that they really got to enjoy it. Because this is the time to keep your house as simple as you possibly can. It is so hard when you are sick, you're ill, you've had a fall, to start dealing with all your household items. If you are going to move into assisted living or skilled nursing, that is not the time you want to be dealing with the emotional issues of getting rid of things or how to store them. So I want to encourage you to recognize that one of the ways to prevent falls, to keep your life very manageable, is to keep your space clean and open and as easy to care for as possible. There are professionals who can do this for you and that will help you, and you think, oh, nobody can help me with this. I want you to know lots of people can help you with this. I don't want to make any assertion that some people are like anything that it's not appropriate. Let me just be clear. I think interior decorators tend to add more to your home, and stagers tend to take things out. This might be a great time to get somebody to come in to help you to stage your house. And they're very reasonable, to come in to show you how to arrange your furniture for safety and how to get rid of some things that you might not need to still make your home very livable and maybe even more comfortable than what you have now. If you have piles of newspapers, piles of magazines that you haven't read, I want you to know all likelihood is you're not going to read them. You might be a bit of a hoarder. Get rid of that now. This is an interesting concept about toilets, and I want to share a personal story with you. Recently, they had an energy-saving toilet that you could get for free in our community, and I went and got a number of them. I was delighted to get these free toilets because my toilets needed to be replaced, and they have water savers on them, buttons that you can push. They were wonderful until they break down, and in the new parts, I haven't been able to find what I need. Remember that as our memory is going to recede a little bit, we maintain our long-term memory, and our short-term memory is what goes soonest when we begin to have some cognition issues. You're wanting to stay home as long as possible. Go back to the kind of toilets that you know how to flush. The other thing is that if you remember when our grandparents and great-grandparents lived, we didn't hear about the number of falls that we hear about today. They happen, but not nearly as frequently. Some of the reasons for that was they weren't taking the number of medications that we were. They exercised more, they ate better, all of those things were there. But the other thing was, if people remember in the olden days, many of the toilet seats were black. And that was so that when you had vision issues, and we're all going to have them, and poor lighting, you could tell the difference from the floor and the toilet. The black toilet seat gave you a place that you knew where you were supposed to sit. Many people can't discern where to sit down, so they just sit and fall right to the floor. Common reason for people to fall. So look at contrasting colors, looking at keeping the toilets very, very simple for yourself. Let's talk about housing for a minute. What we're looking at here are two-story houses. I have nothing to say except I live in a two-story home. I've loved my two-story home. But if you don't have a master bedroom downstairs or a place that you could create into a master bedroom and a shower downstairs, your opportunity to remain independent as long as you want are going to be minimized. It's very expensive to add bathrooms, but not as expensive as it may be to have to enter an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility. This might be the time that if you want to stay in your own home, that you can create a living room or a dining room into a bedroom appropriately with the right doors. Or this might be the time, if you're looking at changing your housing, to look at purchasing a single-story dwelling. Moving upstairs after you've had an injury or you're very ill can be virtually impossible and will preclude you from staying independent. I also want to say, though, it's incredibly important, I think, to remain in a neighborhood where you have many people around you that can assist you with socialization. Today we call something a NORC. It's called a naturally occurring retirement community. And we have Cisneros just wrote a book that's pretty impressive on changing communities and helping aging folks to stay in place independently. And I will tell you that I really encourage people to think about naturally occurring retirement communities. That means that you get together with your neighbors and find one person who's going to mow all your yards. If they don't have to spend as much gas to come in and they can mow 5 neighbors' yards, they're going to save money and they're going to cut you a better deal. Plus, you're all there to watch the same person who's in the neighborhood and know who's doing a good job and watching out for each other, sharing days. It can be the same with a housekeeper, a shopper. The housekeepers are wonderful people to share with your neighbors. The same thing. They're going to know they have a consistent clientele. They're not going to spend as much money on gas, and they can trade days with you without having to trade neighborhoods and where they're going across the city. I can't say enough about being engaged with people. I'm going to talk about being participative in your church. If you've not been active in a church, and I'm not here to tell you what religion or what type of spirituality to practice, but your church community is a pretty amazing community, I've learned, as we age up. They are the people often that will help with delivering meals or getting people over to your house or maybe even having someone mow your yard. They are the folks who will call and see if you're doing okay, to check in with you at night. There are all sorts of programs through different churches. It's a wonderful place to share common ideals and values with someone else. So if you haven't been for a while or you haven't found a place, a home of worship, I do encourage people that this is just as important as a senior center, probably more important. It's a 7-day-a-week responsivity. Senior centers are wonderful also, but I want to encourage you, equally as important can be a book group at a library, can be any type of a program belonging to a botanical garden, a movie group, but just find groups of people and don't allow yourself to become isolated. Remaining independent requires having interaction with other people. That's why many people move into assisted living and skilled nursing, is to have that interaction and activity with other folks. We have a program in San Antonio that I know is throughout the 50 United States called OASIS. And there's another program called OLLI. And these are programs for lifelong learning. I have to tell you, I'm constantly amazed at the number of programs that are offered. Everything from learning how to use a computer to book groups to classes on art history, it's just unlimited. And the OLLI programs are for university type classes that you don't have to take tests. So I really encourage you, and we have a program on OLLI online as well. And if you have any question about either one of these programs, again, call us or email us at info@mmlearn.org, and we'll be delighted to share what we know about them and get you in touch with them. Stay with other folks, stay interacting with people your age, and even younger, just as important. Next, I want to talk about there is nothing more important than family. We also know that family can be very difficult to work with. We have dysfunctional families. I think we're all dysfunctional families, to be honest with you, in some way or another. But the conversation for what you want and why you want to remain independent and what you're willing to do to remain independent starts with your family, with your spouse, your children, your sisters, and your brothers. Everybody isn't going to agree in the beginning. Your daughters and sons may have different ideas than you do. But now is the time to start the discussion. If you're watching this program, this is the time to begin to talk about what do you want, making yourself clear. We have complete programs on advanced directives, durable power of attorneys, medical power of attorneys. This is not a lecture on that. This is a talk with you to just begin to encourage you to talk about what do you want, especially in regards to how long do you want to remain independent. This is also a very important time to begin talking about what if I can't remain independent? Do I want to live with my children? Is that what you want? Do you want to move to an assisted living? And this is the time to begin looking for that. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But my focus is on how to remain independent. These advanced directives, DNRs, are something that I don't want to minimize. They are incredibly important, but it's not the focus of our program today. What is the focus is talk to your friends and family about what it is that you really want for yourself. And most every one of us wants to remain independent as long as we can. Now, I want to talk to you about when you're independent, you're not always independent, and I'm going to share another personal story with you. Just recently, before I gave a class, just like the one I'm giving today, I took a horrible fall, and I fractured my knee. And I was at home, and my husband was not in town when this happened, and I was on my own. And when I got home, I realized that I didn't have any groceries. I didn't have anything in the house other than really water and some tea to drink. And you can always call in a pizza. I found out that was easy. But I want to tell you, I didn't know how to order groceries online. I didn't know that you could use Amazon. I didn't know that you could call your local grocery store and have delivery. What I did find out is it's not that expensive. Now, that's for me, and for you that might be incredibly expensive, but this is the time to shop and find out who will do this for you for the least amount of money, and what do you do when you get into an emergency. Because if you think that you're going to get food with Meals on Wheels right away when you take a fall like I did, it could take months for you to get into that system. So to know that you can get your pharmaceuticals delivered, to know that you can get food delivered, what kind of assistance are you going to need in an emergency for a short period of time? Make sure you're doing that. There is a whole program, and one that we should give to you as well, on disaster planning, but now is the time to make sure you have enough medicines in the event of a tornado or hurricane, a heat wave, loss of electricity, enough food in your home, and enough water in the event of an emergency. Just do that for yourself, and that will even help you to remain independent longer. You get dehydrated or don't have your meds, you're going to end up in a hospital and possibly moving on. That could have been prevented. I do want to talk about how can you line up Meals on Wheels or getting delivery of food. Like I said, in emergencies, this is difficult to get. Otherwise, in most communities, you can. But I want you to know that there are food programs. Fascinating to me when I travel around the country to find out that there are companies that actually deliver frozen foods and prepackaged foods that are for 3 meals a day, that you can have service, and you get to pick what it is you want to eat, and everything is delivered to you. And the prices, I have to tell you, are probably cheaper than what I'm paying when I go to the grocery stores, and my eyes are bigger than my stomach, or the food is perishable before I get to eat it. I've lost it. So there are many, many programs now that offer food delivery for seniors, or for anyone. I could have it now, or even young people, to have good meals delivered that you just put in the microwave or the oven, that they come prepackaged, frozen, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So look into some of those things. Transportation is huge. I can't talk about this problem enough, that seniors drive too long. We do a whole program called Driving Longer, Driving Better, but I will tell you that at some point you're going to need help or assistance with transportation. I really encourage people to know who their taxi cab drivers are, to develop a relationship that you can call them. Many organizations and HMOs that you go to work with, or that you assign your Medicare with, provide transportation to and from doctors. But in order to remain independent, one thing you're going to have to look at is transportation. You think you're going to drive from now till the end of your life. That is probably not true. So what are going to be your resources? Who are the people that are going to help you with transportation? Are there teenagers in your neighborhood that are safe drivers, that would like to pick up a little bit of extra cash, that will take you to the pharmacy, to the bank, and run errands with you on an afternoon after school? There are all sorts of alternatives here, but you have to start thinking about it and discussing it with your family, and recognizing this may be one of the reasons that you might not be able to remain independent unless you can find adequate transportation. There's Via Trans, or transportation for people that age up, but again, it takes time to learn about it, and do it now while you have all your faculties and you're able to make good decisions and get your names on those lists, sometimes that can take 1 or 2 years. So go ahead and work on that now. I do want to always talk about emergencies, and I want to say that we tend to think about candles when we lose electricity. This is one reason why people get burned and have house fires. I really encourage you to get strong lanterns, flashlights. Do it now. You don't want to fire and lose that home that you can stay independent in because of an emergency. I have to look at what I even have here for a second. Okay, this is great, and this came from Henry Cisneros' book, and I'll try to put a slide up about that at the very end of the program and add to this before you view it. But this is about it's a whole checklist in this book, and you can actually look at this as well online. But this is modifications that you can make to your home about grab bars, and it gives you an actual price of what do these things cost. So grab bars, it says on an average cost about $250 to have 2 installed. And I did price these out, and it came in pretty close, a little bit lower here where we are in San Antonio, but these were national prices. You can have an assessment of your home for about as little as $300 to have someone come in and tell you what you need to do. Bathroom modifications, you might need to have a door widened that would make a wheelchair accessible. I was fascinated to know what it costs to have an elevator put in a home. An elevator to put in a home runs between $20,000 and $35,000. When you think about a major move, if you do have a 2-story home, and this is a modification that could be done, and this isn't just the kind that goes up and down the stairs, this is actually inclusive of a shaft. An addition of a master room downstairs can run from $35,000 to $100,000. They talk about regular maintenance in this, things that you need to be thinking about, and those are furnaces. I also want to tell you, if pills are the most important thing and you're forgetting to take your pills, there are amazing pill dispensers that can be purchased or rented that remind you to take your medication. There are so many types to learn from. I really encourage you to begin this investigation now. Stay longer, stay independent, and stay healthy. Money management, bill paying, prescription deliveries, food delivery, adult daycares or other things to think about. Senior social centers run as little as $0 to $75 a month. And then there's care management teams. Never want to underestimate people that can help you if you don't have family and children that will help to keep you independent longer. So some other things to look at. What happens when you can't remain independent any longer and you're going to need services? I want to start by telling you one thing that's very important to recognize is that should you have a fall or have a disease process or something happen and you have to go to a skilled nursing facility or rehab, nothing says that you have to stay there forever. Many times these are short stays, and they're just places that are there to help you get your strength back, to help you get into shape and give you what you need to take you back home and remain independent. So don't think of nursing homes as where I'm going to die. Going to nursing homes today or skilled nursing facilities are where you're going to get better so you can go home. But don't wait until you're in the hospital and something has happened to find out which one you would want to go to. Normally, if you're in a hospital, they're going to give you a list of 3 to 6 facilities that you can choose from. You're laying in a bed and you're going to pick from a list. I encourage people to go out to a nursing home and make a visit. If you belong to a church, become part of a visiting team that does that. But there's nothing to say that you cannot go look at independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing care today while you're well and know what is a proximity to your home that you would be comfortable with, or near your children, or where your spouse could easily visit you. I'm a great proponent of finding something called a continuing care retirement center, so that if you are in an assisted living, do you have a skilled nursing facility that your spouse can just walk over and see you? Can you know your friends over a long period of time? We do complete programs on this, on how to select an assisted living, a skilled nursing, a retirement community. But today we're talking about keeping you healthy, keeping you independent as long as possible, you being proactive in making that happen. I'm going back to where we started. Get lots of exercise, eat healthy food, Sleep well. We have a wonderful program on sleep on mmlearn.org. Look at that program. See if it will help you. Keep your weight under control. These are all things that you can be doing and prevent all these other problems. But most of all, take care of things now while you can and make good decisions. Be proactive. Don't ever hesitate to call us. We're here to help you at info@mmlearn.org. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you'll join us for other programs soon.